everyone. I'm Ali Zendrian, founder of A to Z Communications. This is my Brand Stories podcast, and my first guest, my debut guest, is Mike Langford. He is the founder and CEO of finserv Marketing. For those not familiar, so finserv, financial services marketing. And I picked him both because he's a fabulous human being and fun to listen to, and because he has a lot of great insights.
Whatever.
Mike, welcome to Brand Stories. This is my podcast where I discuss branding in all of its aspects and how people have come up with their brands and how people in the industry help them shape their brands. And I think that you actually sort of fall into two of those categories. Thank you so much for being my first guest.
I know, first pancake, as they say. So I'm so thrilled to be here. Well, thank you so much, Ali. This is a wonderful honor to be your first guest. I hope I'm your worst guest. I hope that this is like the worst one ever, because it'll just get better and better from here. I have a feeling this is going to be a rocking success. So
Yes.
I've known you well enough for a while now, so I have a lot of confidence.
But so my first question is, so what's your favorite brand and why?
Okay, well, this should come of no surprise to you, because we've had sidebar conversations on this brand before, but it's Disney, right? It really is. It's Disney. It's a brand for me that's all about creating memories. I mean, as a Gen Xer, I grew up on Disney movies, and I can even remember the Mickey Mouse Club reruns, and they had Uncle Walt on TV and all that type of stuff. The memories have always been there, and in my family, so my wife grew up in a Disney family. They went to Disney World every year. We have continued that tradition in our house. My son actually just completed a rotation of the Disney College program, where he lived and worked for Walt Disney World for 6 months. He's a college student. It has brought my family just immense joy. And it has done that because it's not just about entertainment. It is entertaining, and they do focus on entertainment. It's about experience. It's also about innovation. It's wild to, if you're going to a physical Disney property, as an example, to see something like this place didn't exist. Like, there was a point in my lifetime where it wasn't here. And now this massive, magical place is here. And look at all these people having a grand old time. And they think about every detail to make your life better. Like, when my wife and I had our 2 children, when they were really little babies, we found out about they had these baby changing centers. Every park has these places where you can go in, and it's quiet. The changing tables are huge. There's a little TV over there if you have another little one with you that wants to watch a little TV or whatever. It's just like that attention to detail, spectacular. Really, the first brand that jumps to mind is Disney.
And so that's magical, and I'm using that very purposely. That is your answer, because that's my answer.
Yeah.
And for similar reasons, because I was one of those fortunate kids who went every single summer with their family, and it's those memories.
Yeah, it's just memories. You think about it. Some people go to the same lake house every summer, or the same beach resort type place every summer. Our family goes to Disney every year, and I see no difference. It's just it's the same thing. You get to see. We have pictures of our kids standing in the same place as they've aged and grown up. It's just what a wild thing to just have.
Absolutely. If you don't mind us geeking out for like a hot second more, are you a Disneylander or a Disney Worlder, or both?
We're a Disney Worlder, a family. So that's why we've been to Disneyland. So we took the kids once. I've been once. My wife, I think, went once when she was younger too. But we went a couple of years ago. It was my daughter's birthday. So we did Riley Palooza weekend, long weekend. She had a long weekend. Her birthday is in October. So we're like, you know what? We haven't been to Disneyland as a family. And so we just did this thing where we went for like an extended 4 or 5 day weekend, whatever. And it was awesome. It was really cool. What's really neat is what we found ourselves doing. And this is a branding thing. If we're talking about branding, when your user, consumer, client, customer, however you refer to the people who buy your stuff, when they refer to something as theirs, think about that. We were at Disneyland, which is awesome, by the way, liked it, but it is different. And we're walking around and go, several times, one of the 4 of us would say, you know what I like better about our place? Or you know what's different about our Disney? And we kept on referring to it as our Disney. We're going to Pirates of the Caribbean, or this one in Orlando. They are dramatically different. Dramatically different. The one in California, in Anaheim, much longer ride.
Yes.
Much longer ride. Yeah. So I'm sitting there and I'm saying, I'm like, you know what? I think I like this better than ours. I don't understand why our Pirates of the Caribbean isn't big. By the way, I live in Austin, Texas, for the people who don't know me, which smack in the middle of the country. It's easy to get to either one, same distance. But I was just such a funny thing how you realize you have taken ownership of this thing as if it's personal to you. Like, this is my deal.
Yes. But I'm glad that you guys are at that point with that brand, because you're right. It's funny how I'm also Disney Worlder, been to Disneyland once. Like, same thing that you find yourself comparing. You're like, I like this one better. I like this better. It's interesting going from one to the other, where if you're a Disney Worlder, you know that it's an experience and you have to plan out your days and this and that. And then you go to the other one and it's like, it's 2 parks and like they're manageable and like you don't have to kill yourself trying to get it all done.
And you can walk from one to the other. The only place you can do that is Epcot to Hollywood Studios. You can technically walk to them, but it's a hike. You're in for a 25-minute walk. Yeah.
Well, I'm a runner, then you know that you can get to them because you've done.
It's true. That's very true.
But that's different. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, end of Disney rant. But
that's okay. We can geek out for it. I got all the time in the world. Let's go.
Absolutely. As far as branding, how do you feel about your personal brand and how that fits in with your company? And then you help other companies develop their brand. How do you it feels like there's like a metasphere, if we're gonna like marvel out of all this. How do you have that like kind of come together, and do they intersect at all?
I think they do. There is obviously an intersection. I think, especially when in the intro for this podcast, you mentioned that we produce podcasts for companies, and some of them I host or co-host in the podcast, and then other times I'm behind the scenes as producer, and you never know that I'm there. That's fine. The way I think about it is, it's funny. I'm glad you sent over some questions ahead of time, and I put some thought into it. I am that type of person. I think prep matters when it comes to doing these things. I think it makes a big difference. So at the root of a company's brand, it's all about the set of beliefs that people have about the company that resonate with them emotionally. We just talked about that with Disney. Like, it's memories, it's a feeling. I start to feel ownership of this thing. Like, this is part of me in my life experience. And by the way, that can be in a B2B situation too. We use XYZ product in our production. And you'll hear people say that, like, this is what we use internally. We're using Salesforce. We're using, take your pick of whatever the brand is. Where it intersects for me is that it's an interesting one. I think about my personal self. I am a natural conversationalist. I like talking to people. I love people. And so I could not be in a better business. I love meeting new people. I like going on journeys with them, conversational journeys with them, discovering new things. I think one of my superpowers is pulling out good conversation out of a person, helping them make something complex easy to understand for an audience, and helping that be something that is influential to the audience, and the audience goes in the right direction with it. But I think about the best way to put this. We create a podcast, a show for our clients. I'm always thinking about their audience in that respect. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just about them. It's not like, how good does Allie sound? How is the audience going to receive this? What do we want What are you looking for out of them? When I think about a brand, it's like, I want your audience to think about the things that matter to you in your business and how it helps them succeed.
I think that it's important, though, that you've thought about how all of these things play together, and how, even like you said, so on a podcasting show. So, I mean, yes, obviously you want the company that you represent to do super well, but if their guest kind of bombs, that's also a reflection on them. And so you got to have everybody win.
That's right. Well, it's funny, like, this is not an exaggeration, minimum 10 people reach out a day saying, and I think it's because it's a growing industry, hey, we have a potential guest for your, there are companies that are just specializing in that. That's all they do is get people booked on podcasts. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I'm not throwing shade. That's just what they do. One thing I really wish they would do is like pay better attention to who you're reaching out to. Do a better job of asking your client, what audience are you trying to reach? Is it a B2B or B2C? Can we define the B? You're looking at businesses. What types of businesses are you trying to reach? And what would be good for them to learn about? All that type of stuff. Because very often we'll have people, they'll reach out to us and like, hey, I don't even know how to help that person. Like that, our podcast is for this audience. As an example, one of the ones, we've got several guests on our shows. That show, the Modern Financial Advisor podcast, it's financial advisors are the audience, or wealth management executives. So people who maybe control, they're a layer above the financial advisor before the advisor will get their services or whatever. Right. So that's the audience for that show. We're really, really protective of that audience. We want to make sure that anybody comes on the show is going to be good for them. But also, I'm really protective of the guest. I want them to get something out of this. This should be good for you. You should be like, that show was awesome. I feel amazing. So for me, it's really important you have that good match. you got to spend time thinking about it. In this case, again, I think it's true for any product out there or service that you deliver, but I think particularly in this one, you're dealing with people talking and you're hoping that people are be willing to listen or watch that conversation. So it's got to be engaging. It's got to be entertaining. You might want to educate a little bit in there too.
How do you help firms solidify their branding with your podcast? Do you feel as if there's a way that you're sort of shaping their brand with your podcast?
For sure. Look, I mean, you're absolutely shaping your brand. Think about all your audience, right? Well, the people you're talking, clients, prospects, referral partners, influencers, talent, whether you realize it or not, every time you talk, every time you put something out into the world, that's affecting your brand. People are going to have, again, that emotional resonance. A friend of mine, Chris Penn, famously said, your brand is the emotional aftertaste that you leave when somebody interacts. And I like it too. But I think of resonance is it's like, when I walk out of there, or when I stop watching or listening or whatever, what do I feel? When I see your content in my stream, did I feel good about it? So it just matters. It's going to affect it positively or negatively. And I like to think it's going to be positive. And so you have to put a lot of thought into, okay, what is this person trying to achieve? Here's an example. When you bring on a guest for your show, that guest hopefully should be doing something, should be there to help evangelize a concept, an idea, it could be a technology, whatever. It should be evangelizing something, spreading the good word, what evangelism means. They should be there to educate or maybe entertain or help you provide engagement. But they also should be bringing an audience themselves. So how do I help them solidify their brand? How do I help them cement their brand? Like, well, first of all, is this person going to lift you up? Right? When I share the stage with somebody, because I think of a podcast as a stage.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that even if I have a bigger audience than you, I'm hoping that you lift me up, that you make me look better to the world, that you're not going to detract me. So I'm hoping that you are smarter than me on something. And I'm going to do everything I can to make you look smarter than me on that. You'll often hear, if I'm doing a show, you'll be like, oh, that's really smart. I think that's really smart. Like this, wow. And I'll ask that person because I want to shine a light on them. That's my goal. And in what we're doing there is we're lifting everybody up. Like, we're expanding our audience. We're now having access to Allie's audience. Allie's having access to mine. Right. Awesome. Right. Both of us are getting something out of this. You're asking questions that nobody's asked me before. This is great. It's forcing me to think about things that I don't, frankly, think overly overt about too often. I mean, I think about them, but I don't.
It's like subconscious, though.
Yeah, for sure. You think about it, it's like, what am I thinking about when I'm producing a show for a client? I want it to be good. I want it to look good. I want it to sound good technically. I want it to be a good topic, right? I tell people, like, prep is where it's at. You've never watched a good television show ever. Even the ones that are on in the morning that are like live shows, every single one of them has a prep call or a round table or something like that, a table read where they're talking about, here's what we're going to talk about on today's show. And here's, and they go back and forth and they test things. I watch a lot of sports stuff in the morning. They always talk, every once in a while you'll hear them say, like, oh, this morning in our table read, we did this. They talked about the things they were going to talk about. They develop conversational chemistry. That matters, right? The guest and the host have a rapport. I think a lot about quality, and quality is not just technical quality. Does it look and sound good? Anybody can do that. But I think about the quality of the end product a lot.
I was going to explain. So the reason that I was smiling was you were saying all those things about, so you're lifting them up and you're making them look good. And I'm like, gosh, first of all, as a guest, he's doing this. So obviously you're gifted and this is great. But second of all, then it's all that more, it's meaningful that you came on my podcast, that you thought enough then of me to know that, is my audience going to be good for you? Is it going to help you in any kind of way? That sort of is a big honor. And I appreciate the fact that then you thought that much of me. So
I wish I could reach through the screen and get a big hug. This would be great. No, but seriously, you're right though. It's spot on. It's like, I'm a big believer in the world is, this serendipity happens. Sometimes you don't know, even though my business isn't specifically branding. No, to your point, I do have an impact on it. We think, and I do think about it. Like, what are you trying to do with your business and what audience and all that type of stuff? What do we want out of that audience? Or are we trying to influence there? But there's value here for me, a friend and a colleague. So that stuff's great. Everybody, as I said to you before we click the record button, everybody starts their podcast sometimes. So, okay, it's okay to be guest number one. I don't care.
Thank you for doing that.
What's the negative for me? Zero. Like I've talked to you enough where I know you're not crazy psychopath type of person. You're not going to destroy my business or me. So it's like, there's no negative. There's really nothing other than, investing some time with a person. And what's the positive other than the things that we've already covered?
Yes.
There's a potential that somebody sees this and they email me at some point in time or reach out to me on social and go, "Hey, Mike, saw your interview with Allie. Really interesting stuff. Can we get on a call?" And it leads to business. That has happened to me before. That has happened. That concept. I've had people reach out to me from podcasts that I did 5 years ago.
There you go.
I don't know how it worked. I do know how it worked. They Googled something and searched, and that podcast popped up, right?
Yep. You know exactly how they work.
Yeah, I know exactly how it works. Right? No, I know, but it's just fascinating that somebody finds an episode from 5 years ago, like, "Hey, Mike, I heard your conversation with Terry. Like last time he and I were on a podcast together, it was 5 years ago. That's awesome. Like I was Googling this, and that's one of the things I love about this medium, by the way.
Yeah.
Not only are people going to search for the topic, they are. Yep. Occasionally, somebody will be searching for branding. Somebody might search for branding with podcasts. Mm-hmm. There you go. Somebody might search, believe it or not, at some point in time for one of your guests or you.
Right.
Because I just did that recently. I searched for somebody who I was introduced to. Somebody said, "Hey, you should check out this guy's book. And I think the two of you would hit it off, blah, blah, blah." Mm-hmm. So I searched for him on Spotify, found a couple of podcasts in which he had appeared on as a guest, and I listened to a couple of them. So that's how I never would have found those podcasts without that. So who knows? Who knows what happened? All sorts of good stuff's going to come. I think we're going to crush it.
Well, to that end, so with your podcast, how did you go about building your brand and your platform with this? And how do you feel like you've differentiated yourself from anybody else who does podcasts?
That's a really good question. How do I go about building our brand? Most of my business, is in the financial services or fintech space. So I have been one of the very early adopters of many new technological marketing related innovations in this space, right? I launched my first podcast in 2007, and that was for my financial advisory firm. Not only was I a very early podcaster, I was probably the first one, if not the first 10 in the industry ever to do this. Being early sometimes helps. It becomes like somebody has heard you. They know they are the first person they've ever met doing a podcast. I'm your first guest. I've had many people it's their first time ever on a podcast in which I've been on this side of the microphone as a host. That's happened many, many times. And some of those people are business leaders. Like they've never done it before. They've done TV, they've done whatever interview, whatever, but so they're nervous. They're actually nervous. I get on a show. They don't know what's going on. That's helped. Being early helped for sure. Having some level of specialty certainly helps as well, specialization. And the reason why I say that is, this, wealth management and financial services more broadly, highly regulated. It is not easy for anybody to work in that space in content creation.
No.
And you don't realize the things you know until you realize you know them, or you come across somebody who doesn't know them. And I know that sounds silly, but it's like, as an example, like I always jokingly say there's several flavors of financial advisor. You got the independent broker dealer, registered rep.
Yep.
You have got the advisor who works in a wirehouse. You have got the RIA. Then you've got the insurance agents who call themselves financial advisors, and they're selling insurance-based products like annuities and so forth. So there's a lot. That's just one little component of it. You hear terms like there's RIA, IAR, who is the member of an RIA, and then you have that's not an IRA though. That's an investment account type. So there's all these little acronyms, and then of course there's the regulations and constraints. That helps. Just knowing the business helps. Being able to have a conversation with somebody and go, I have been in this industry since 1994. I have worked on the institutional side. I have worked on the retail side. I studied finance. I have a master's degree. I used to work for State Street Corporation and Fidelity Investments. I know the space pretty deep. That certainly helps. Right? So for my brand in that space, that helped a lot. The other thing that's really helped, frankly, is just a laser-like focus on some of the stuff we've talked about before.
Yeah.
Quality matters. Always getting better. I started my first podcast, again, 2007, with one of those little blue snowballs.
Aww.
I bought it for like $100. I still have it. I refuse to throw the thing away. I have it. Plastic's all yellow now.
Sure.
But I still have it. It's great. I've since gone through other microphones, upgraded and this and that. Like, you can't get rid of your baby. The first thing. But solutions will change. Back in 2020, when all of a sudden everybody discovered Zoom, a lot of solutions quickly ramped up to make it possible for doing this video recording with ease. Before that, it wasn't. Before, everything was pretty much audio. Or you might record via something like Zoom if maybe somebody had it. Or Skype. Remember Skype? That existed. Quality, constantly getting better, innovating, realizing that, stuff will get better. As far as differentiating from others beyond focusing on a niche, and we are expanding, we're moving beyond financial services. And that doesn't mean we're leaving financial services behind. Everything we do with financial services, we can do for other industries, other verticals who aren't as regulated. It's funny though, the question you sent over before, and you kind of said there was, how do you differentiate against the competition? I don't think about the competition in the way I think you meant the question though. And the reason why I say that is it hasn't happened yet. Maybe it's happened behind the scenes that I'm unaware of, but I've not had a scenario where like, well, Mike, we're talking to multiple firms about having somebody produce our podcast. We want to bid from you. That situation actually has not happened yet. Every situation, I don't know if that has anything to do with me or if that just has to do with the fact that believe it or not, I'm usually the one who's either initiating the conversation about we should produce a podcast for you. Or here's how it happens. Somebody comes on as a guest.
Right.
And this has actually happened multiple times. Mike, could you do one of these for us? Yeah, we can produce a podcast for you. So far, that hasn't happened. I haven't had a scenario where somebody's tried to poach a client, which is great. I haven't had somebody else, oh, by the way, Mike, we're thinking about moving on to a different provider. I've had clients who decided they're not going to do a podcast anymore. That's on them. It's fine. But I have yet to have the one who's like, we're going with somebody else. My biggest competitors, as I think about it, the biggest competitors in the space, and I think anybody else who does what I do, or anybody who else is a content creator, frankly, of any kind, your biggest competitor is DIY and HIN, head in sand. And there's not much you can do about the head in sand people. Look, it's really hard to compete with that. There's a lot of companies out there that, and they were there, by the way, they were there when the web came out. They were there when mobile and then social media came out, and they were like, I don't know about this social media thing. I don't know anybody who uses social media. I don't think my clients use social media. Are you out of your mind? You literally met executives at good sized firms who would say, well, I don't really spend any time on Facebook, so I don't think our clients are there. You checked? So there's not much you can do with the head in the sand people. Look, 40+% of Americans regularly listen to podcasts. YouTube just shared data that a billion people watch podcasts every month on YouTube.
Wow.
A billion. Whew. Podcasts are now the next big platform of content that everybody you want to reach and influence is using that platform now. And I say everybody because, like, look, every demographic, you can't get to 40% of the population or a billion people and not basically be hitting every single demographic. It is impossible. So all your clients, prospects, referral partners, the talent you want to reach, they are all consuming content via podcasts in some way, shape, or form. They may not even think about it as a podcast, but it is. If somebody produces a regular YouTube show, that is a podcast. You can subscribe to it. They upload it once and you can listen to it anywhere, watch it, whatever. So head in sand, hard to do until they get to their aha moment.
Yes.
That may happen when they've been invited to be on a podcast. That may happen when they talk to somebody on their team or a client, and the client's like, I was listening to this podcast the other day. Like, it's just a medium that people prefer for content. So there's not much you can do about those people unless you're really good at evangelizing and getting them to see the light. DIY is the biggest issue, in my opinion. It's the one that I find, it's not the most challenging. It's the one that it's the real biggest competitor though. Because most companies that are looking to launch a podcast, like if they're already thinking about it, they are considering like, how do we do this? Can we do this in-house? What is it? Somebody on the team is researching, how do you start a podcast? And so if they haven't found me, chances are they'll start tinkering and poking around with stuff on their own. And as somebody who's done it for a long time, I will tell you, there's a lot to learn. There just is. Yeah. What service? Do you use Riverside? Do you use this other one? Do you use this? Do you use this to record? Are we all going to be in the same room always? Or are we going to be on the road? Are we going to have remote guests? Am I going to be in the same office position every single time? What kind of camera do I use if we're doing a video one? What kind of lighting how do I get there's so many questions to ask. When you're considering DIY, you got to think that, like, number one, it's going to be way more time consuming than you think it is.
Yes, it is.
It's just, trust me, you may end up having an FTE that one, sometimes junior marketing person, you're telling them they're going to be doing the podcast. It could very well turn into their full-time job, just so you know. So if they've got other things to do, your show might end up becoming their full-time job if it's a weekly show.
I don't know if you saw this on my LinkedIn, but I had shared, so I have 2 podcasts, actually. Hopefully anybody listening to this will listen to my other one. I would greatly appreciate it. But so in starting that, I started on Spotify because I'm using Riverside. So that's what I use. And I put it up on Spotify. I wanted it on Apple Podcasts. It took me, so I started the other one end of October, beginning of November, till now, to figure out how to put it on Apple Podcasts.
And so somebody, and this is true for any outsourced provider who develops a skill and techniques and so forth. A craftsperson comes to fix something at your house. They've got better tools than you. They know how to use the tools better than you. They've probably seen this problem multiple times before. I mean, ask any, so in our audience, one of our audiences, financial advisors. What would you say if a client says, I'm thinking about doing this myself? How would you, what do you respond? Like, sure you can. There are some things you might run into.
Right.
Why should I pay you? Why should I pay you X amount of dollars as a fee or a percentage of my AUM? Why should I do that? That makes no sense to me. I can DIY this.
Yep.
Good luck. I don't know how to, hopefully you never run into problems. Hopefully you don't wake up and realize you grossly underperformed the market because you decided to DIY when you were just balking at paying 1%.
Right.
That could have made you an extra 3, 4, 5% a year over the course of 20, 30 years. Guess what? Penny wise, pound foolish, is that the saying?
Yes, yes. Dollar foolish, I think. But
yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing, right? So so when I think about the DIY stuff, it's number one, it starts with quality. You're just not going to be as good.
Yep.
Unless you've hired somebody who's an absolute podcast pro and they're coming in and that's all they're going to do, you're just not going to be as good internally as you would hiring an external firm. You're also not going to be as cost effective as you think you are. People hear the price point, and it depends upon the show that they're doing, but
Sure.
it's got a comma in it. They hear the price point for having a show produced, and sometimes you'll see somebody, and you see it's a smaller company, they'll do like, oof, and you're like, well, how much do you think it should cost to have somebody professionally produce a podcast? Like, you've probably had professional videos done for your business. You've probably had professional photos taken for headshots for your website. How much did those cost?
Right. They had a comma.
A real person was involved in that. Like, this is real stuff. People are listening to somebody who knows audio, somebody who knows how to like color grade a video if necessary. All that type of stuff is happening. And then again, somebody knows how to publish all this stuff. I always joke about, like, when you hire a professional and you're wondering whether to do DIY. It's like, what are the consequences of you doing a poor job if you do it yourself? The consequences of your podcast, if you do it a poor job, is like you just wasted a bunch of time and some money.
Yep.
Nobody listened. Nobody just didn't have the effect. But getting to the point of your podcast, branding, it can negatively impact your brand.
Yeah.
If I see something like that doesn't match the quality that I expect of XYZ Co. Wow. Like, I know,
right? Did they do that in their garage? Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't, they don't, there's nothing there. And then you get frustrated. You're like, we spent all this time with it. So, well, it's not that the podcast didn't work. Let's walk through it. Quality matters, man. That's my big thought on it. It's like, two big competitors are head in the sand, DIY. If I can get around either one of those, we're good.
Yeah. But so you brought up a few good points in there. And so one of them, so being that I think my industry kind of faces the same thing of, you give somebody a quote as far as like a PR retainer.
Yeah.
And granted, like, I'm trying to personally to be more approachable and affordable and whatnot. But it's still, people are looking to get down and down and down and down. And it's like, it's a skill. So let's just pay people what they're worth, because that's how it should be.
Well, that it's cheap. What's the value? So, for instance, we had one client who provides financing for wealth management firms, and they earn X% on every loan that they do for a financial advisory firm. We had one day, I got a call one day from their president. We just closed a $15 million loan. The person discovered us on the podcast.
Oh.
Like, the math is like, well, that just paid for 3 years of podcast retainer production.
Right.
Like, all it takes is what? Like, right now, those firms, if any are listening, by the way, any of these companies, that if you are providing lending, commercial loans to financial advisory businesses, by the way, this might be commercial loans to any other business out there. One of their founders recently just told me they're earning 3%. So every time they close a loan, but these aren't small loans. They aren't lending $50,000. They're doing 7-figure loans, and sometimes even to the 8 figures. 3% of that is huge. Now, there might be some tiering in there. Like, once it gets above a certain size, it comes out. But like, it's massive. If you're balking at the cost of like, hey, I should invest in a new platform where everyone I'm trying to reach and influence is on this, is actively using this platform to consume content. Just go to LinkedIn, spend a little bit of time, see how many podcasts are going by, or
Exactly.
clips from podcasts. People are producing content. I promise you.
I know. Get on the train, really.
And somebody who's listening to one of these podcasts, guess what? They're not getting random listeners. Like if somebody listens to your podcast about that is at the root, it's a wealth management XYZ type of company. They're there for a reason. They're not people because I was interested in dog walking podcasts or a mystery podcast.
I stumbled upon.
I showed up here and I stayed and listened. No, they're finding this for a reason.
Exactly. The other thing that you mentioned that I thought was interesting, so you saying that obviously you guys are firmly steeped in wealth management and financial advisory and whatnot, but that you're expanding into other highly or less highly so regulated industries. I think that that's interesting. First of all, so the point that you made before about how if you're in especially such a highly regulated industry, you need to be working with partners that are familiar with this industry.
Yeah.
Because I think people do make that mistake of like, you need to go with like the big name and, you know, the major firm who you're going to be one of a bajillion and they probably don't know exactly what you're doing. So why are we doing this? It's that experience that really matters, that you know where the guardrails are, you know where the oopsies are going to be. And so you don't have them happen. That's really important. And I'm glad that you guys are expanding because your expertise is needed everywhere. Let's be honest.
Yeah. It was funny. I went to a couple of meetings last week. I was invited. Kind of one of those serendipity type things. And they're really interesting. Almost everybody in the room were B2B folks. And this kind of got me over the line on like, yeah, we have to expand more. I'd already been thinking about it, wanting to diversify out of the space to add other, because there's no reason why we can't. B2B companies right now really need to be thinking about this because almost all of our clients are B2B. If I can serve one B2B client who's highly regulated, we can certainly do it with ones that are less regulated. Trying to figure out like, how do I create a podcast that again is engaging and entertaining, that captures my audience, that helps influence them or educate them? How do I do that when they're B2B? Like, what do B2B people listen to? Like, well, yeah, they're still humans.
Yeah.
They're buying. They're interested in what's happening in their industry. They're interested in what's, new and innovative. They're interested in new techniques for better managing their business. They love to hear from other entertaining influencers. One of the guys who's speaking at these events, his name's Gary Maxwell. You can check him out. He has this new book called Big Little Legends, and he talks to companies about how they can develop a legendary brand, if you will. Or you should try to get him on this podcast. But that's his whole thing, and he's got great stories and so forth. And he's trying to teach these people like, it doesn't matter what you sell, you can become a legendary brand yourself. There's so much there. People have a choice for what widget they buy for their manufacturing line, right? Very, very rarely are you in a space where like there's only one provider for your stuff. But just as importantly, like, hey, if for no other reason, there's a war for talent out there. Even no matter what you think about the economy now, good quality, talented people have a choice of where they work. And they're spending time online, just like you and me. And if they come across like, oh, here's a podcast video from, oh, no kidding, the CEO's on this. No kidding. And now they have the person from their marketing team, their finance team, the manufacturing floor. Like, I'm learning about this business. And the podcast isn't a little funny thing. I've heard this once or twice. It's actually not a common objection or refrain, but I do hear it occasionally. Really worried. It's really hard to build an audience. I don't know about building an audience for a podcast. It's a lot of work to build an audience. I said, look, let me ask you something. If I told you like, hey, down the street at the Marriott, I've got a ballroom, 80 people, it's full. 80 people are there. And guess what? They're all in your target market. Would you be willing to come down and spend an hour on stage in front of that room talking to a room full of 80 people who are in the market for what you do? Mm-hmm. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
So why are we talking about like we're worried about developing an audience for like, if your podcast gets 80 listeners regularly, that's awesome. 80 people took time out of their life to put the AirPods in while they're mowing the lawn or doing laundry or whatever the heck they're doing. Your audience is out there. I assure you. You're not going to be the next. Take your pick. Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss. Take your pick of big, mega. That's not the success metric you're looking for. You're looking to reach your audience and be influential with it.
So last question, and thank you for generously spending all this time with me. I appreciate it. What advice would you have for firms and for people as they're thinking about developing their brand?
I like this one. Number one, think about your audience. Now, I know that coming from me who produces podcasts, that sounds obvious, but like think about the people that are going to come in contact with your company as a whole, your product or your services. That is your audience. And they don't have to be the ones who buy. It can be employees. It can be the neighbor, the company who's next door, whatever. Think about all those people who come in contact with your business in some way, shape, or form. What feeling do you want them to have about your business, your product or service? If you have a little bit of doubt, I always just like focus on quality and ease of use. Don't be hard to use. Now, by the way, these are not mutually exclusive, but you've experienced it. You know what it's like to go into a store and pick up 2 different pieces of clothing or 2 different types of products and go, this one feels really nice. This one, not so much. Oh, this one is more expensive. This one's cheaper. This one feels really nice. Like, the difference between the quality. Same thing from a podcast or video perspective. You've watched a podcast of 2 or 3 people talking, and you've seen the difference in quality. Sometimes it's difference in quality of the actual, like, this one sounds good, this one looks good. Sometimes it's the quality of the conversation. Like, oh, they thought about what they're going to talk about. They've done a little planning there. There's levels to this. But you'll notice it, quality. But the other one is ease of use. People will bail on something that's a pain in the butt to use. And it can be like the simplest thing. I'm going to give you a little mini rant, small, fun one. But think about this. I've been a Starbucks fan, consumer for 30 something years probably now. They're starting to lose me a little bit. This is a brand that I have been crazy loyal to. And I'm not completely off them, but they're starting to lose me a little bit. Number one, so I've been a gold card, whatever you want to call it, member, where you get your stars and you get to trade your stars in occasionally for a free drink or a pound of coffee if you get enough stars.
Yeah.
They used to have double star days and triple star days. So you're like, oh, if I go on that day and I buy something, I'm going to get some bonus stars. Since their new CEO came in, gone. No more double star days, triple star days, whatever. Okay, so fine. But something they did years ago is really starting to drive me nuts, frankly. So it used to be on your birthday, you'd get a free beverage. And here's your free beverage. And you could basically go get that coffee whenever you want. It's been added to your account as a gold card member. Come get your birthday beverage. So if you happen to be busy for a few days, and also one day you walk in, you're like, hey, I still get that birthday beverage.
Yeah.
Let's go. Then they shrunk it down to you can use it for 30 days after your birthday. Now, on your birthday or else. You've eroded the brand.
Yeah.
Like, wait, this used to be this awesome thing. Like, now you're taking away something that you've given me. This stinks.
Right.
So stop, never try to take away things. Like, it just stinks for a customer. But the other thing is, you've now made it hard to use. So get back to the ease of use thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, my birthday actually is tomorrow. I got my birthday beverage coming tomorrow. So I'm literally already thinking about, I've got to get out of the house. I got to go to Starbucks to get my birthday beverage. Otherwise, I don't get a birthday beverage.
Oh.
So that's it's like a hard to use thing.
Yeah.
And there's so many brands that do that with their product and their service. Like, hey, this is a great deal. Let me show you how many hoops you need to go through in order to take advantage of this deal. Don't do that.
Well, I agree. But also, most importantly, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
and that doesn't last for just one day. You can use that happy birthday however long
cash
you want.
in that birthday wish forever. Like, here we go. Happy birthday from Allie. This is awesome.
Yes. Exactly. But that means all the more to me that you came right before your birthday. So thank you for being my first guest and right before your birthday.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.